Hey everybody, Tommy Kraft here, writer, director, executive producer on Star Trek Horizon, and I'm here to bring you the 10th video blog. Now, of course, it's been a while, as it usually is, and so I'm trying to get better at that, and this is an attempt to show you that and show you some things I've been working on. Now, the big news is that there are around 173 scenes in the shooting script, and I've finished and locked off 122 of them. So we are getting there. It's getting closer. And last time in the video blog, I showed you some render passes and some basic methods for how we get our space scenes. And for this one, I'd like to show you the process for doing a couple of the interior shots on the ship. Now, a big announcement is, of course, that I've been mentioning this here and there on the forums and stuff, that we're going to be releasing a clip from the film. And this is one of those shots that will be in the clip from a finalized scene with music and sound and visuals and everything else. And part of the reason that's taken longer than I would like to get that out is because there's just a lot that goes into it. Matt Ratzel, who is a very talented composer and sound designer, will be assisting with the sound design duties on this film. And he's been very busy, and so in between waiting for his schedule to free up and getting things done on my end, it's just been a slow process, but we are getting there. And so this is one of the shots that is going to be in that clip. And I wanted to show you the basic process for how this shot gets done so you guys can get an idea for why this takes so long, especially with mainly one person doing it. And so I'm just going to basically go through this. You don't have to be a visual effects expert to follow along or anything like that. This is just so you can get the general process. And so just to start off, I want to show you the basic thing that we start with for any shot. Now, what you're seeing here is the footage that we shot of the scene. Now, this rig here is something that my brother Sean put together for me. He's very talented, and I really wanted the chief engineer to be able to interact with the set and engineering, and I thought this was especially important with this NX Enterprise era set because you have this great centerpiece in front of the warp core, and it just adds so much production value if you can actually climb up onto it. And so the first thing I do is I do what's called a garbage mat. And this allows me to just very quickly take only the areas of the shot that I need, and this will allow me to composite out the green later with much more ease. And so coming back into our final composite from this shot is I just want to build up from the bottom. So this is our base render of engineering for this shot. This, of course, this whole model was put together by me. It's all done in CG, and you can fly around virtually in the set and then render out any angle you want. And for this still frame, that render probably took about 10 to 20 minutes for this one shot. So you can imagine once you get the shots where there's camera movement and you have to render out, 50, 60, anywhere up past hundreds of frames, how long it can take just to get your background played. But for this, I was able to use a still, and we have the background. And then here, I just wanted to have this light source in here, so I put that in. And now this here is a Romulan firing up here, and he will actually have a CG helmet. And there's some other Romulans that appear throughout the shot, and now we come to our chief engineer. And this itself is a process because when you start with the green footage, you have to use this to composite out the green. And it takes a number of sometimes hours of playing with your settings to get just the right look. And then on top of that, you have to take a pass of just your rails to put in front of your Romulans and what have you to make it look like there's more depth. And then I added some smoke in here because it's in the middle of a battle. There's fires going on. And these here, these layers, these are our phaser shots. And these are the light hits that come from our phasers. And this is just an accent light that goes in the scene. And that's another accent light over here, a volume light to kind of simulate the light falling on our Romulan guy. And these are our flashing emergency lights. And then a final layer to top it all off. Now, that's a lot of different things going on for one shot that is only a few seconds long. Really only about 4.5 seconds. Just to get this one shot. And it takes a lot of time and effort. And this is, of course, me showing it to you after it's been all put together, without any of the work that goes into actually making it all happen. So I talked about shots where the camera is moving and how that can take much longer. And so this is a shot of Christopher Blackman, who was one of our donors via Kickstarter, and he donated at a level that got him a spot in the film. And so he was kind enough to lend his money and his time. He drove a number of hours to get here to Michigan to shoot this scene for us, and I was so appreciative of that. And like most scenes, it starts off pretty simple. The Romulans are beaming into engineering, and he raises his phaser to take aim at them and fire, hopefully to take them out. And so as you can see, that's just our plate as it was shot. Pretty standard. But it does not end there. And if we come back to our final shot, what I did was I wanted this shot to be more dramatic, to feel like there was something going on. So rather than just have a still camera, I wanted the camera to move throughout this shot. So let's take a look at the plate from engineering. So as you can see, we have this nice little dolly in here, and it's going to come right in on his face. And this render took a good number of hours. It was probably an all-night render just for 1 second and 18 frames, which is a total of 42 frames, which is not very much for an all-night render. But once we had this, I then wanted an officer in the background, and that's just me, so I went down quickly on the green screen and grabbed a shot of me standing there. And we have another smoke element, and we have a camera blur. This is a lens blur because as we get in closer on his face, the background is going to naturally start to blur out more like it would with a real camera. And now we have our guy. And this is a blur layer that goes on top to kind of feather out the edges a bit more around his body. And now for the fun part, our emergency lights that flash on and off in the background. And now here's a few more accented light sources to kind of emulate the source falling on his face and such. And what you have here are our two phaser layers. And this creates a nice little beam. And of course, we're rendering everything right now on 1/4 of the final resolution, so it goes faster. That should give you another idea. If I just click it to full here and scrub somewhere in the timeline, that's how long it took to render one frame as we work. And so you can imagine how that would get frustrating, so we do everything in a very low resolution so it goes faster. And this here is a slight light glow on the phaser beam to give it a bit more punch. And then another smoke cloud in the foreground. A nice glow to top it all off. Then of course this, which is a flare off screen, a light burst as the transporter is happening just off screen. And this is what our final shots look like that I've shown you from this scene. Now, there's one other interesting shot that I would like to show you real quick, not from the scene and not from the clip that we're going to release, so you're getting a bit of a special here. And so here we are at scene 93, much later in the film. This is in the midst of a battle sequence. And this is what I wanted for this shot was a complex camera move that really conveyed the intensity of the scene and the fact that the scene was relentless. The motion of the shot never stops. And it's one long take that lasts about 11 seconds where the camera moves from each officer. It moves from the tactical officer to the captain, to the science officer, and back to the captain. Now, it's important to convey just how long this kind of thing can take to get just right. So what I want to do is pop over into the program called 3ds Max and just show you briefly how I start with this kind of scene. So here we are in 3ds Max, and this is the virtual bridge set that I constructed quite a while ago, before filming even began. And as you can see, it's a pretty accurate representation of the bridge. Now, of course, there's a lot of strange stuff going on in here. All these little blue things are our virtual cameras that I've constructed, and these yellow things down here are the light sources and so on. And this is just a placeholder object, this little ball, so I can get an idea of the position of an officer. So there's a lot going on here, and if we just jump into the 8th camera in the scene, this is a camera that I animated for this one long take shot. And it's important to get an idea of just how much work can go into this kind of thing. You can easily spend half a day, an entire day, just animating a camera move for your shot. Now this is a around a 200 frame animation, which took a good 20 to 30 hours to render just this bridge shot. And so starting, if we select our camera, looking at the tactical officer, we have to animate very carefully this movement throughout the bridge. And it's not anything like taking a real camera with your hands and picking it up and moving it. It's all a very hand-done process, and it's all dependent on what we call the curve editor. And if you take a look in here, this is a graphical representation of our camera's movement throughout virtual space. This is moving on the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z. And to sum it up, the shape of these curves is very important for the speed and realistic movement of the camera, and it can take a lot of tweaking to get it just right, especially for a shot this long. And after you've spent enough time animating it, we'll just scrub through here. It comes down to the captain, over to the science officer, and then back down to the captain. And after we do that, we do a number of viewport passes, which I talked about in the last blog. And now you're seeing the viewport preview for this shot. And it's just a quick way to preview the motion of our shot before we do the full 30-hour render. And once that's done, we do have our final render. And then all the magic happens. So all of these scenes with camera movement were shot with still cameras. So if we just come into our shot here, it was shot sideways so we could get the most resolution out of our camera. And if you just scrub through the shot, it's just the actor sitting there with no desk, acting like there's a desk, and delivering his lines. And the fun fact of it is, when we shot this scene, he was the only guy that could come to shoot that day. So there are a number of scenes in the film where we weren't able to have all the actors present, and it's a testament to how good of a job they did that they were able to make this work with effectively no other actors to play opposite in a number of these scenes. So once we have this still shot, we essentially turn it into a 3D plate. So when the camera moves, it moves with the camera and throughout the set. And as you can see now, we're panning away from that actor. And as we come down to this shot of the captain, and we pan away from the captain, and that's just another still shot that was done sideways. And now we come up to our next shot of our science officer. And we start to pull back, and as you can see, he's getting blurry. That's because that was to replicate the real blurriness of a camera, and that goes on our background plate too, as we move away. And now this is the second shot of our captain, which was actually done in another take of him from another angle, so we could do this changing camera angle throughout the scene, and it's him from the side. And then, of course, finally, we have our simulated light sources coming in. This layer up here is our console, and then a final glow. And in the final shot, it looks like this. Now, of course, you're not hearing any sound or music or anything, because I'm just showing you the visuals right now. And this is, of course, all very quick and simple, dirty look at this process. And it should just hopefully give you an idea of how much work it takes to put all this together, and the amount of vigilance, we shall say, to go through it all. Because something like this, as I said, can take days or weeks. This particular sequence in total, this total battle sequence is about 6.5, 7 minutes long, and it took a number of months to get it finished and locked down. And it can be very tiring to work for that long and see only such a small portion completed. But it is rewarding, and we are getting there. As I said, we are on scene 122 out of 173-ish, give or take a couple. I always forget the exact number. And we're making progress. And one final thing before I go, for those of you who don't know, we had a Kickstarter and are currently accepting donations via PayPal on our official website. And for those of you who have already donated, and those of you who will donate in the future, I've had a number of people asking when and where the rewards will come. Now, some of the rewards are not dependent on the completion of the film. For instance, some of you will be receiving patches for your donation. The plan is to send out all of the rewards in one fell swoop. So those of you who are just receiving patches, those of you who are just receiving a Blu-ray, or those of you who are receiving everything will all get your rewards mailed out at the same time. The reason for this is just simply because I'm basically a one-man band here. It's just easier to keep track of things and be the most proficient as possible to do it all in one fell swoop. So when the movie is completed, which of course I don't have an exact date on yet, and we receive all of the final rewards such as DVDs and patches and what have you, they will then be mailed out to all the donors. And I just want to say that I cannot be more appreciative for those of you who have donated to the film. It has been incredibly useful. And for those of you who would like to donate and haven't, we do have the option available via our official website, StarTrekHorizon.com, all one word, and that is in the Support Us section. And so I hope you enjoyed this little look at the basic process that goes into putting this together. And as I said, in the future, in the coming weeks, we will have a finalized clip from the film with sound and music and visuals and everything, and that's going to be awesome. I hope you all like it. And of course, beyond that, there will be another trailer as well once we get closer to having the full thing done and I can be more specific about a release date. That's when I'll do the next trailer so I can actually put that date in the trailer. So thank you everybody for watching, and until next time, live long and prosper.